Hey everybody. First of all, sorry this is up a day late and a little bit late in the day, but you know, stuff happens. We start the chapter off with Ned. He wakes up in the morning and he hears a bunch of Lannister men down below his window in the courtyard. The Hound is on a horse and he's sticking a sword through a dummy, whatever, and a bunch of Lannister men are down there laughing. He wonders why the Queen hasn't fled yet, but you know, we know why. So he goes down to breakfast with Sansa and Arya and Septa Mordane. Arya says that Syrio says they have one more chance to get a dancing lesson in before they have to set sail. Ned says to make sure she's done and bathed and ready to go and on the ship by noon so they can leave. Sansa asks permission to go see Joffrey. Ned says no, that's probably not wise right now. Septa Mordane says she would make sure she was on the ship by noon if that's what he's worried about. He's like, no, I'll explain some other time, but right now you need to just get ready and get on the ship. Sansa, of course, is pissed and she jumps up and knocks over a chair and runs out. About an hour later, Grand Maester Pycelle comes in and tells him that Robert has passed away. Sir Barristan shows up first and says, you know, the king just died. My place is by the new king now. And Ned tells him, no, your place is here. We have things we need to discuss. Everyone's assembling and he realizes that Renly isn't there. And they tell him that Renly left early that morning with Loras Tyrell and all of his men. So Ned's like, well, shit, there goes all the men that I was counting on from him. He asks Sir Barristan to read the letter that Robert wrote. And he asks the members of the small council to confirm him as the protector of the realm. Before they can do that, Tom, his assistant guy, comes in and says that the king has summoned them. Ned says the king is dead, but whatever. They follow him to the throne room where Joffrey is already seated on the Iron Throne and Cersei is standing next to him in what I am imagining is a very pretty robe. It's like sea green with this like creamy lace trim. It sounds pretty. I want one. So in the throne room are the Lannister men. We have the King's Guard. We have men that, what's his name? Littlefinger has assembled. Ned is happy to see them, to see that he has kept his word. And then Joffrey starts to talk and now everything goes to hell. He's like, I command the small council set up a coronation. I want it within a fortnight. And I will take pledges of the council's loyalty right now. Which we know is a move from Cersei because we know Ned is not going to do that right now. Ned asks Lord Varys to show Robert's letter to Cersei. She, of course, reads it and tears it in half and then tears it in half again and throws it on the floor and kind of scoffs it off and laughs and says, is this meant to be your shield? A piece of paper. Sir Barristan says, those are the words of the king. What are you doing? And Cersei says, we have a new king now. He hasn't been coronated and we haven't said anything, but whatever. Cersei says, last time we spoke, you gave me some advice. I'm going to give you some right now. Bend the knee, proclaim Joffrey as king, and I'll allow you to go back home and live out your life up in the north. She used more colorful words, but I'm not gonna. Ned says he wishes that he could, but Joffrey is not the real king. Joffrey screams liar because he's just a little brat. I mean, I'd be upset too. If someone said I wasn't the rightful queen, like, come on. Ned says that Stannis Baratheon is the true heir. Marcella, who I don't even know if she was in the scene on the show. The other kids were. I don't think they were. She's like, what does this mean? And Cersei commands Sir Barristan to seize Ned Stark. Joffrey starts screaming, kill him, because he's just a piece of shit. And Ned tells the commander to take the queen and her kids up to their apartments and hold them there until further instructions. Jenna Slint, whoever he is, he screams men of the watch and they all pull out their spears and Ned's like, no, I don't want any bloodshed. What are you doing? And Jenna's Slint slices Tom's throat. The Hound slices Kane's throat, who is another Stark person. So the men of the King's Guard have taken the Stark people. They're starting to kill all of them. And Littlefinger goes over to Ned, puts a knife through his throat and says, I did warn you not to trust me. So we are on to Arya's chapter. She is having her dance lesson with Syrio. They are sparring and he's calling out the moves that he's about to do. And he says he's about to go left, but he goes right instead. And Arya says that she's mad because he lied. And he's like, you weren't watching. And she's like, I was watching. He's like, what you weren't seeing. And then he tells her a story of how he became the first sword of Braavos. The first sword had died and the Sea Lord brought all the other swords in to, interview them basically. And he asked them all about his cat. And he asked Syrio about the cat and he was like, that's a regular cat. I see 1,000 cats like that every night on the street. all the other swordsmen would say, oh, it's a fabulous cat, it's extraordinary, how fat he is, or how marvelous his teeny tiny little ears were. You know, they had been eaten off or nipped off by other cats in street fights and stuff. But he was the only one who said, yeah, that's a regular cat, I don't give a shit. And so he told Arya, the heart can lie, the mind can play tricks on us, but the eyes always see. Which is such good advice. How many times do you not see something that's happening because you overthink it, or you follow your heart, and like what's right in front of your face, you let your mind play tricks on you. Such good advice. So they're having their talk, and Sir Meryn and some men come in to get Arya. She is going to follow them, and Syrio stops her and says, hey, why is her father, Lord Stark, sending Lannister men to come fetch her? Two of the men try to go at Syrio, and he's like, not today, bitch. And he knocks their swords out of their hands, and they're all embarrassed. Sir Meryn says, kill the Bravosi and bring me the girl. Syrio tells Arya to run, and she says, swift as a deer. And he says, just so, and she doesn't. She kind of runs away and then stops and looks back and watches him fight the other two swordsmen, and she realizes just how fucking good he is because he's amazing. Finally, one of the men breaks his wooden sword in half, and Arya screams at him to run. He says the first sword of Braavos does not run and tells her to leave, so she turns around and leaves, and she's crying. She runs to the kitchens, and she's going to go up to the Tower of the Hand, but she can like hear Syrio talking to her in her head like, don't do what they would expect you to do. Fear cuts deeper than swords. I like that it's added in there, like she hasn't had that much time with him, but he still taught her like how to survive. And she remembers what she heard when she was hiding down with the dragons, where the person that she couldn't see their face said, if one hand can die, why can't another? So she's moving around trying to get to the stables. She realizes that the Red Keep is deserted, and it's never deserted. And she sees that the people there's no one anywhere. Everyone's hiding in their houses with their doors barred. She pretends to be chasing cats so she can get around, and she makes her way to the stables. She finds another Stark person who's lying on the ground. He recognizes her and calls her Arya Underfoot, and tells her she must get to her father and warn him. I don't think we got the full scope of this in the show, but like they are killing all the Starks. Like I just assumed they killed the ones that were with Ned and like let everybody else go. I don't know. I just don't know. So she's looking through all the wagons, everything's all in disarray, and she sees a chest that's open with clothes, and she realizes she's going to need warmer clothes for the King's Road, and of course she's going to need needle. So she goes through all the chests to find it. And as she's doing this, a boy comes up behind her and says, oh, you know, there she is. It's the wolf girl. And she's like, help me with a saddle. She's trying to get a horse so she can get the heck out of there. And he's like, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to take you to the queen. She tells him to stay away. He grabs her by the arm. And before she knew it, she stuck him with a needle. Like, I mean, it's kind of self-defense. She's about to saddle the horse to take it out of there, but she realizes the castle gates will probably be closed and she won't be able to leave. But then she realizes that last time she was lost, there was another way out of the castle. So she goes to find that path. She finds her way down to the Dragon's Keep again that she had been lost in before, and this time she isn't scared because she's been there before. She's remembering a time when she was in the crypts with her brothers and sisters in Winterfell, and Robb and Jon scared them pretending to be a ghost, and she was all upset, and you know, she smiles thinking about it. And she realizes that she doesn't really need to be afraid of the dark. Like, she'll be fine. And she continues on her way. I know that chapter seems really short, but it was actually one of the longest ones we've had so far. There's a lot of detail in her just going through this whole thing by herself and what she's thinking in her head. And again, Syrio's voice is going through her head telling her just, fear cuts deeper than swords. Calm the fuck down. You'll be okay. It was nice, but like there wasn't much dialogue or action. She was just walking around by herself trying to figure out where to go. So, read the book. Okay, so Sansa's chapter is next. I don't know why this pissed me off so much. And it's probably just me, but the first sentences that came for Sansa on the third day, 3 days this girl was sitting there by herself not knowing what's going on. Well, 2 days. They had her sitting in a room with her friend Jane Poole without any information. Girl, she's a hostage, pretty much. She's a hostage. Which is why Ned didn't want her to go see Joff in the first place. Because Cersei knew what was up. They would have just taken her and kept her as a hostage. And this girl wouldn't have had any clue what was going on. So as we go down, as we read on, I calmed down because they they didn't know what was going on. Jane was worried about her dad. They could hear all the like fighting and grunts and pain and screams and stuff going on between the guards, and so they deduced that people were being killed. So Sansa also cried on the first day. Not as hard as Jane, but whatever. She was in the room calling for her dad, Septim Ordain, anyone. No one was giving them any answers. So she was worried, but she kind of calmed down. Jane's like, they're killing everyone, and her dad isn't a lord, so you know that she knew her dad's dead. The room where they're being kept is high up in one of the tower things, so they can see that the bridge going over the moat is up, and also that the castle gates are closed. So by the end of the second day, the fighting's over, and they can just see Lannister men everywhere patrolling the place. No one's answering any questions, and they're just stuck in the tower. At sunset on the second day, the bells rang, and Sansa realized that the king had died. And so she's wondering if Joffrey is going to be king, what's going to happen. And she's wondering if they had killed him too. She doesn't, this girl is, whatever. So that night she dreamt that Joffrey was on the throne, that she was seated next to him, and everyone that she knew had to come and bow and curtsy to her because she was the queen. She's still in La La Land. Like, all this shit is going down. You see that the castle gates are closed, the bridge is up, Lannister men are everywhere. You hear people fighting and dying in the halls. You don't see any Stark people, and you are locked up. Your concern, your dreams are that Joffrey's on the seat, Iron Throne, and you are the queen. The next day, Sir Boros comes and gets her from the tower to take her to see a queen. The queen and Maester Pycelle and people, they're all dressed in black, and she realizes, you know, that's bad, that King Robert has passed away. Cersei thanks her for coming to let her know that her father was about to leave the city. I always thought it was just like good timing that they caught Ned before he left and everything. I didn't even think about that. Sansa, when she ran out of the room, she went and told the queen that they were going to leave, and because she was upset that her dad wouldn't let her say goodbye to Joffrey. So they are playing this game. Sansa says, you know, I came to you because I love Joffrey. I'm going to make a good wife for him. And they're like, yeah, but your dad's a traitor and you have a traitor seed. So one day that's going to come to fruition and you're going to be a traitor too. So we don't really know if we can trust you. They are playing this girl like a fiddle. Even if they do kind of believe it, like, the way she is so easily manipulated by it, it's just... Peter Baelish is there. He's saying that she is more like the mother than the dad. Cersei brings up the thing with the wolf and Arya fighting Joffrey, and Sansa says, no, Arya's more like my traitor dad. I'm nothing like them. Girl. So they tell her to write letters to her brothers and her family to tell them to come to King's Landing and bend the knee. I wonder what would have happened. If they had actually just come, they probably just would have killed them. There's no way they would have just let them pledge loyalty and go away. They would have killed them. Sansa does have a little bit of like a second thought about that. She's like, you know, if you could just let me talk to my father, I'm sure I can clear this up. And Varys is like, talk to your father about what, treason? No. So she writes letters. She asks what's going to happen to her dad, and they say that's for the king to decide, and she realizes that Joffrey is in fact king now, and she's all happy. So she writes letters. I forgot to mention that Sansa mentioned that she was in the tower with Jane Poole, and Cersei's like, what the hell is the other girl doing there with her? Get her out of there. So Peter Baelish says she can be brought to my place, and I'll take care of, like, I'll handle her transport and take care of her, whatever. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So Jane Poole is taken to Peter Baelish's place, a brothel. And by the time Sansa got back, like, Jane was gone. So Sansa feels better. She wrote the letters. She's back in her room by herself. And it wasn't until she's, like, half asleep that she realizes, oh, shit, I didn't even ask about my sister. Because you're a selfish asshole. Selfish asshole. Okay, that's it. I will have another one of these up on Friday, probably earlier during the day. Things have just been, I've just been doing other stuff. Hope you enjoy. Have a good Thanksgiving. Bye.